strike targets across the region. Pakistan says officials are racing to bring the sides together again for more talks. Though last week's ceasefire is appearing to hold, the showdown over the Strait of Hormuz has risked reigniting hostilities and deepening the region-wide war's economic fallout. The blockade applies to vessels going to and from Iranian ports. The move could restrict the passage of the few ships that Iran considers friendly, which have been permitted to traverse the strait, as Iran has curtailed maritime traffic since the start of the war. I'm Charles Ledesma.
The Republican-led Senate has rejected the latest Democratic attempt to halt President Trump's war in Iran. The Senate on Wednesday turned aside a resolution that would require the U.S. to withdraw forces from the conflict until Congress authorizes further action. A mixed day on Wall Street with the Dow down by 72 points, but the Nasdaq rose 376, the S&P 500 advanced 55. More on these stories at townhall.com.
When you're vacationing in your RV, there are some things you can always count on. Laying out on a hammock, waking up to birds chirping, and board games with the family.
What? It's not cheating.
Frank, you're scaring the kids.
Oh, come on, guys. We're having fun. It's family time.
With Progressive, your RV is protected 24/7, so you're prepared for whatever you don't see coming.
Technically, it's a loophole.
It's a children's board game. You're a grown man, Frank.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
Spring cleaning isn't just for your house, it's for your life. If your job is getting old, it's time to clear the clutter and spring into IT. Go to My Computer Career.
My Computer Career helped me get the skills and certifications I needed to start a new life as an IT professional in months, not years.
Earn the certifications the top employers are looking for right now. Visit mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation to see if it's time to spring into IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including the...
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a First Alert weather day as scattered storms this evening and a little past midnight could be severe. Hail and wind the main threats, but we'll be on guard for a lower tornado risk as well. It's a low severe risk overall, but still some scattered storms and a severe threat to be aware of for this evening and tonight. Then by morning, the storms are gone, low of 62, a high of 83 with sunshine coming out. Isolated storms should stay south of St. Louis Thursday late in the afternoon and evening, and most of the day dry with some sunshine. Friday, we have some sunshine and a warm day, a high of 87 degrees, and then watch for some storms in the evening or late evening and overnight. Those could be strong to severe Friday night as well. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Hey folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke.
News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're... Now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
You know, Ronald Reagan had a great saying. He used to remind us that every Republican's favorite day on the calendar every year is July 4th. And every Democrat's favorite day is April 15th. But they're not as happy today. I can assure you of that. Because last year on July 4th, on our favorite day, we celebrated signing the Working Families Tax Cut into law. The president signed it out on the lawn. We were all there to celebrate with B-2s flying ceremoniously overhead. It was a great day for America because we knew when we signed it last year on July 4th, we would come to this day. And it is a great day.
Speaker Mike Johnson, unusually happy on tax day because of everything he just said there. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had a long list of reasons why Americans are slightly happier this year on what is usually the most dreaded day on the calendar every year, April 15th. I don't know if anybody ever says happy tax day, but here we are, Chris Arps.
Yes, it is tax day, and I kind of celebrated today by going out to a Cardinal game today, saw a Cardinal victory. Today was Jackie Robinson Day, so it's really weird seeing every single player wearing number 42, and the Cardinals had special uniforms where this year the 42 was in blue. Was blue because, of course, Jackie Robinson played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, whose uniforms were blue. 5-3 victory, so it was good to see a victory, and good to see my good buddy Mike Ferguson from the morning show was out there with his wife. We left in the fifth inning because it started raining, but I did look up the highlights, and the Cardinals did pull it out 5-3.
Nice. You put them back on their winning ways.
Yes.
They had been limping along a little bit the last few games, but good to see them back on the winning
10-8,
track.
it is a record. As long as they're above 500, I'm happy.
That would be a glorious season, considering how horrible we were told they were going to be this year. So we'll keep track of all the Cardinals news along the way. Blues wrapping up their season. And lots of activity up on Capitol Hill in D.C. and in Jefferson City. Jefferson City witnessing the, fifth week left in the Missouri legislative session. A lot happening underneath the Capitol Dome. We will talk about that as well. Lots of legal and lawfare news to discuss with Zack Smith, our senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, who joins us every single Wednesday. Donald Trump threatening once again to fire Jerome Powell if the Fed chair doesn't leave office on his own. And Zach will give us an update on some of the buzz, Chris, we're hearing about a potential retirement on the Supreme Court and some very well-known names being floated as a possible successor. None of the justices are really spring chickens any longer, but they're largely all in fairly decent health, depending on which one you're talking about. But some of them getting up there in advanced age, and everyone's always trying to think about a succession plan.
Yeah, some of the notable names that people are talking about retiring, of course, is Justice Clarence Thomas. He is now the senior justice on the court. There's been talk of Alito possibly leaving as well. There were reports last week that he had to leave the court early. He was hospitalized for a couple of days. That, of course, brings up news of retirements. And there's been long-time talk of Sotomayor possibly retiring. She has some health issues, and the liberals were trying to force her out during Biden's term because they wanted Biden to have another Supreme Court pick and not have President Trump pick one. So those three are probably on the list. If I had to take a guess, I would probably say probably Justice Thomas, since he is the senior member of the court.
We'll get Zack Smith's opinion on that and also the latest hearings being held at the Supreme Court and when we might start seeing some more of the notable decisions. Now that we're in April, the current Supreme Court term is nearing its fourth quarter. They like to wrap things up and get out of town by the 4th of July Independence Day holiday. So we've got about 2.5 months of time for those big decisions to come down, several of which we're still waiting for. So we'll ask Zack Smith if he's heard anything whispering along those lines as well. At 4:45, we'll, of course, have Chris's Corner today.
Yes, the progressive left's bigotry problem. We have seen an advancement of their bigotry over the last couple of years, especially towards Israel. Some of the notable names within the Democratic Party, what's their name again?
Uniparty?
No,
Oh.
the five people, Ilan
Oh, the
Holmar,
squad.
the squad, of course.
I was going through all my glossary terms.
Have been expressing their bigotry, and I have some more examples of that, some latest examples of their bigotry. We'll talk about that at 5:45, 4:45. The progressive left's bigotry problem.
Hmm. I am excited to hear about that. It's always fun when we can show the hypocrisy on the left. Speaker stump speech today. I will focus on issues of taxation today, given that it's tax day itself. And the title of today's Speaker stump speech is Putting Prosperity Back in the People's Pockets. So putting prosperity back in the people's pockets. We've made some great strides on that on the federal level, and hopefully we'll have some developments here on the state level as well. Got a few examples for that. We need to do lots more, but at least we're headed in the right direction. And Chris, unfortunately, I hate to say our timing was good on this, but we are going to discuss how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's, the left's, the Democrats, the D.C. Democrats' immigration policies continue to fail Americans, and we're going to speak to an angel mom about that. And Chris, I hate to say, ripped from the headlines, that segment is, there is a story coming out of South Carolina today, another situation of a drunk illegal immigrant killing 2 young boys. And you have to ask the left, when is enough enough?
Yeah, and these stories are just becoming too often. We're hearing stories like this. We had a similar story here in Missouri, in St. Louis last year, when a illegal immigrant killed a police officer who was on duty. He was working a traffic accident, and this illegal immigrant hit him and killed him. So we're seeing way too many instances of this with these illegal aliens.
Listen to this. This is a horrific story. This happened at 12:20 in the afternoon on Sunday. So on a Sunday afternoon, an illegal immigrant who was allegedly so intoxicated he could not even stand was accused of driving off of a roadway and killing 2 children who were doing nothing more than riding their bikes on the sidewalk. Can you imagine being the parent? These 2 young boys go out, they're riding their bikes, they're on the sidewalk. You think they're out of harm's way. And this illegal immigrant, Iri Otanio Roberto Perez, runs them over, 2 counts of felony DUI resulting in death. He also faces charges of driving without a license in an open container. This occurred in the South Carolina region of Spartanburg on a Sunday afternoon. How horrific.
Yeah, instead of the left focusing on the illegal problem that Joe Biden perpetrated with allowing 20 million illegal immigrants into our country, they'll focus on, well, if you look at the statistics, most of the migrants, as they call them, they are here just to work. They're law-abiding citizens, and these are just rare instances of someone being killed. But the argument that I always make is one person killed by an illegal immigrant is one too many.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, could not agree more. So that'll be the 525 segment. We're going to have Patti Fox. She is an angel mom who was recommended to us, the angel mom of Carissa Aspenis, and she's going to talk about how Joe Biden's immigration policies failed her daughter. She was severely disabled by an illegal alien last year. We'll talk all about that at 525. And at 545, what do you got for us then?
Yeah, the Time 100 list of the most influential people in the world, that was released, and I'll let you know if Tim Jones is on that list.
I wonder if Joey made it for his movie reviews.
We shall see. 545, you got to hold on.
It's going to have to hang on till all the way to the end of the show because we fill you up from top to bottom. Chris, another, speaking of horrific random violence, happened again up in, what do you call it? Chirac, up in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Chirac. Widow, and son of a late Chicago commissioner were found shot dead inside their home in a suspected homicide. That's a weird story, wild, horrific story. A prominent Chicago family is at the center of a double homicide investigation after the widow and the son of late Cook County Commissioner Dennis Deere were found shot to death Tuesday inside a West Side home. So County Commissioner Dennis Deere previously passed away. His wife, 51 years old, and son, Caleb Deere, 23, were shot to death in Chicago. Multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and head. I mean, I tell you, that doesn't sound like a random act of violence.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I'm wondering if this was a random act of violence or were they targeted because they are a prominent family. It almost sounds like it was an execution instead of maybe a robbery or home invasion gone wrong.
Yep, so that's on some unfortunate news from Chicago. Chris, on the international scene, the war in the Middle East continues to rage on, not just in and around the Straits of Hormuz, but the Israelis committed a huge attack today in Lebanon against Hezbollah. It's being called the largest strike in recent memory, more devastating than the 2024 pager attack. If you remember the pager attack, Israeli strike on Hezbollah, more devastating than the 2024 pager attack, the IDF says. The strike hit an unusually broad layer of Hezbollah's middle ranks across Lebanon, a former Mossad official is reporting. So no peace in the Middle East right now, although, interestingly, the markets seem to be thinking that maybe we're in the latter stages of the war with Iran. Markets up the last 3 days in a row. The Dow was down a touch today, but the NASDAQ was up triple digits again. And oil seems to be leveling off, lowering a touch. And all focus right now seems to be on two big issues: the Straits of Hormuz and who gets to go in and out of there, and what can or cannot be done with the uranium that the Iranians have enriched.
And that strike on Lebanon comes on the heels of Israel and Lebanon yesterday having high-level talks between their ambassadors here in the United States. The first time they've had talks in more than 30 years. The Israeli ambassador said called it a victory for sanity, with those two nations agreeing to talk. There's no ceasefire or anything that came out of that, but it's always a good thing when people are talking. And then on the Iran front, the U.S. and Iran took a step today towards extending a ceasefire deal ahead of next week's expiration date. The official said negotiators reach an in principle, though not final, agreement to keep talking. Which worries me about that is the Iranians are very good at stalling and keeping talks going with the potential of something happening, but we shall see. You know, they are very recalcitrant on giving up their nuclear weapons. You know, there was a report that said that the United States wanted Iran to promise for 20 years not to try to enrich uranium. The Iranians countered with a number in single digits. So I guess that's a starting point, because in the past they always said, no, you know, our nuclear program is for humanitarian or peaceful means, and that we don't want to give it up. So maybe them saying 9, 8, 7 years, maybe that's a starting point for negotiations. I don't know. But President Trump has said over and over and over that on his watch, Iran will never be a nuclear power.
Yep. As you said, the Iranians can never be trusted. So no matter what they say, I think we can pretty much take them at their word that they will break their word. So whatever the U.S. military is going to do, they probably need to do it during this incursion, because I think once we extricate ourselves, I doubt the American people will be very happy about going back in there again. So get what you can while the getting's good. We'll be talking with Zack. We'll be talking about that with Steve Bucci tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, and it'll be great to have Steve in to see what's developments have happened and if he can make sense of it for us and all of you out there in News Talk STL Nation.
Yeah, and the Pentagon also announced today they're sending 10,000 more troops to the Middle East in the coming days to help with the blockade.
We'll continue to track that as well. All right, next up we got Zack Smith, and there was a big decision by the D.C. Circuit. Unusual for them to kind of do anything that makes sense or is insanity. But if you remember the very activist Judge Boasberg, he is one of the biggest nemesis of the Trump administration. Well, the D.C. Circuit reversed Boasberg recently and slammed the brakes on his criminal contempt probe of those AEA flights. So that's one of the things we can ask Zack Smith about when he speaks with us next. Chris and I will be right back with our resident legal eagle, Zack Smith of the Heritage Foundation, right after this, here on a very wild Wednesday show, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a First Alert weather day as scattered storms this evening and a little past midnight could be severe. Hail and wind the main threats, but we'll be on guard for a lower tornado risk as well. It's a low severe risk overall, but still some scattered storms and a severe threat to be aware of for this evening and tonight. Then by morning, the storms are gone, low of 62, a high of 83 with sunshine coming out. Isolated storms should stay south of St. Louis Thursday late in the afternoon and evening, and most of the day dry with some sunshine. Friday, we have some sunshine and a warm day, a high of 87 degrees, and then watch for some storms in the evening or late evening and overnight. Those could be strong to severe Friday night as well. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Temple.
Hey everybody, it's your buddy Todd from The Right Mind Show. And here's my celebrity friend, Larry Hankin from Seinfeld and Breaking Bad.
I never wanted to end up, talking on the phone to Todd.
The Right Mind Show, Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL.
Hey, let me tell you about a dental practice I don't just recommend. I am a very proud patient. And if you heard our show recently, we had on Dr. Alan Link in studio with us from the Dental Link. And you know what you hear on air is exactly what you get in person. Dr. Link is knowledgeable, he's professional, and someone who truly cares about his patients. The Dental Link is run by Dr. Link and his son Andrew. And you can feel that family atmosphere the moment you walk in. What really stood out to me is the staff. Dr. Link treats his team like family, and it shows. They're relaxed, professional, and they make you feel comfortable right away. Now, for me, this is personal. I have dental implants. This isn't cosmetic fluff. This is serious dental work. And they walked me through every step, made sure I was comfortable, and treated me like a person, not a procedure. If you've been putting this off because you're nervous, listen to this. The Dental Link offers many dental implants, a less invasive option with quicker recovery and less discomfort than traditional implants. I'm telling you, my implants have been a game changer. They look natural, feel natural, and gave me back confidence I didn't even realize I'd lost. The Dental Link is in Baldwin near 141 and Manchester. Hey, give them a call today. Check out many Dental Links, or if you just need some dental care at 636-496-8584, or check them out at thedentallink.com. The Dental Link. Do good, do it well, have fun doing it. That's their motto.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination, both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michaels Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michaels has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michaels Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it takes to love me. Like I want to be loved by you.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This guy, Jerome.
But you want Jay Powell out of the way. Isn't it the easiest way to get him out of the way to end the probe?
Does that mean we stop a probe of a building that I would have done for $25 million that's going to cost maybe $4 billion? Don't you think we have to find out what happened there?
And he said he's not leaving if,
Well, then I'll have to fire him, okay? If he's not leaving on time, I've held back firing him. I've wanted to fire him, but I hate to be controversial.
Oh, it's all perfectly legal.
You are out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order.
Zack Smith, legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation.
You know, I ask you a lot of predictions. Can you predict what the Supreme Court probably will do with this action?
Zack Smith, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Good to talk to you this
Good
afternoon.
to talk to you as always. Zach, you heard that clip there, President Trump threatening to fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell. There is a new Fed chair that has been named, but he has not had a Senate hearing. It's my understanding that Powell is allowed to remain in the role on an acting basis if the Senate has not confirmed a replacement yet. I want to ask you about that. And can the president fire Jerome Powell without what's called cause?
Yeah, well, stay tuned, right? This is the issue that came up in the Lisa Cook case earlier this year and late last year when all of this was brewing, when the president, his administration, essentially accused Lisa Cook of lying on a second mortgage application, saying it was her primary resident when it was not, in order to get a more favorable rate. And the president said under the relevant statutory framework, in his view, that was cause for removal. Now, of course, Lisa Cook disagreed. She sued, and the case was ultimately argued before the U.S. Supreme Court, and we're still waiting for a decision in that case. But listening to the president's comments, it seems like his position has not changed. And one interesting thing I would note, Chris, there are two cases that the court heard dealing with whether or not the president can remove certain officials. There is the Lisa Cook case at the Federal Reserve, and there was the case involving Rebecca Slaughter at the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. Now, the FTC case, the president and his team focused much more on Article 2 constitutional type arguments, saying that it was inherent in the president's authority to control the executive branch, that he should be able to hire and fire whom he pleases. In the Lisa Cook case, the Federal Reserve case, the president focused so much on the constitutional arguments, but instead really focused on the statutory arguments, saying that the Federal Reserve was unique. He looked to the statutory regime governing the Federal Reserve's appointment and removal provisions. And so at least in that case, the argument was based much more on the statutes governing the Federal Reserve, not as much on the constitutional arguments as the other case relied on.
Zach, it seems that everything in government these days, especially in Washington, D.C., and sometimes even on state government level, seems to be really confounding, I think, to common sense. I think a lot of people at home are wondering, why do all these people who get these government jobs think that they have them for life, right? There's only a couple things that we specifically give to people for life tenure. Supreme Court justices, I know some state judiciaries do that, but it's explicitly spelled out. I mean, Zach, these people like Powell and others, they didn't just magically appear in these roles, right? But I think Zach, the left thinks there's some like omnipotence to certain people that once they get in these roles, as long as they're challenging Trump or Republicans or horrible conservatives, then they should just be allowed to stay in those jobs forever. It's like, where did we get in this idea, Zach, that these appointed positions somehow grant people lifetime tenure?
Yeah, well, this is the same conversation that's being had with civil service at the federal government writ large, Tim. You know, there's this idea that even low-level government employees should essentially hold their positions for life, more or less, that the president shouldn't have a say in who should be hired into certain positions. And I think the president has a very compelling argument when he says that the American people elected me, Donald Trump, to be the president of the United States, and that I should get to decide who should be in certain positions, in part to make sure that those individuals are working to implement the administration's policies, not working to undermine or subvert them. And look, Tim, this argument goes for any president. Any president should be able to control the executive branch of government. So, you know, it'd be curious to see if Joe Biden, Barack Obama were still in office, if many of these same individuals that are opposing Donald Trump's actions would be opposing the actions if Joe Biden or Barack Obama were making similar types of arguments.
Speaking with Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zack, as you know, the court is winding down its term for this session, and some of the last arguments of this term are Fourth Amendment and immigration cases. Can you give us updates on those two cases? Exactly what are they about?
Well, let's focus on the Fourth Amendment case if we can, Chris, because I think this is a very interesting case, Chartry versus United States, and it deals with something known as geofence warrants. Now, this came to prominence kind of with a lot of the events at the Capitol on January 6th. Basically, the government was using cell phones to track individuals and tie them to specific locations. And if you're unfamiliar with geofence warrants, essentially what the government can do is say, give me the cell phone location data for everyone who is in a specific area within a specific time frame. And then based on that, using other tools and investigative techniques, they can essentially extrapolate and figure out who was where, when, and in a more common scenario, whether someone perhaps was at the scene of a robbery, at the scene of a kidnapping, or something like that. And so there's been a very real question because for a long time, this location data information that all of our phones are collecting and storing on a routine basis, all of this was stored on servers, in Google Cloud servers, Apple Cloud servers, what have you. And so the government would ask these big tech companies to turn over that information to them. And there was a question whether the government could get that information simply by issuing grand jury subpoenas, whether there was a warrant required. And there had been some division among lower federal courts over whether the government could simply use a subpoena, have to show probable cause, essentially, get that subpoena from the grand jury, or whether they would have to get a warrant, show probable cause to get a warrant from the magistrate and then move forward at that point. The subpoena authority from grand juries is much, much broader, much easier to obtain than if you get a warrant signed by a magistrate where, again, you would have to meet that probable cause threshold. So that is the issue, whether that the court is being asked to resolve, whether a warrant is required for these geofence type situations. And what will be interesting, Chris, is from a practical perspective, some of these big tech companies may have blunted some of the practical implications of whatever the court decides, because Google, for instance, has moved from storing a lot of that information, that location data information from their servers on the cloud, and now stores it locally on your device, which clearly, in most circumstances, law enforcement would need a warrant to search.
Zack, while the left and the media continue to whine and complain about what Donald Trump's Department of Justice is or is not doing, Zack, the bombshells just keep dropping from the Biden-Harris administration, which has been out of office now for over a year and a half. Zack, we just saw a bombshell report. Well, Zack, it was a bombshell report for about 30% of the media outlets in this country because most of them just completely ignored it. A DOJ report that looked at over 700,000 documents came up with a lot of damning conclusions based on the evidence that they saw in those reams of paper, alleging that it was the Biden administration that weaponized law enforcement and the DOJ against pro-life Americans using something, Zack, I don't know that I've heard of before. It's an acronym, the FACE Act. Zack, what can you tell us about that, the FACE Act, and this report?
Yeah, well, look, this was a shocking report. It shouldn't have been, but even though many of us had suspected this was going on for some time, the level of detail, how expansive really this abuse was by DOJ was shocking. It was about an 800-page report that the Justice Department released. I haven't had a chance to go through all of it yet, but just some of the snippets that are being reported are very, very disturbing. Now, the FACE Act, it's a federal law that was passed in the wake of some of the abortion clinic bombings, in the late 80s, early 90s. And so the FACE Act was passed to essentially say that if you threaten or cause harm to individuals, more or less outside of abortion clinics, other healthcare providers, that's a federal crime. Now, what's also included in the FACE Act, part of the compromises that was passed, was that also if you threaten or intimidate or harm someone in certain other places, like houses of worship, that can also be a violation of the FACE Act as well. But, of course, before the Trump administration returned to office, there had never really been enforcement of that latter portion of the FACE Act. And what you saw under the Biden DOJ in particular is a very aggressive, very expansive read of the FACE Act. They would often target pro-life counselors who often simply stand outside of abortion clinics praying for the individuals who go in there, trying to encourage them to choose life instead of killing their unborn child. The Biden administration would accuse those individuals of committing FACE Act violations. And then in an effort, I think, really to intimidate those individuals and other sympathizers, they would often execute law enforcement raids on these individuals' houses, execute arrest warrants using armed FBI agents, other federal agents to go in and forcibly remove those individuals, arrest those individuals, and instead of simply allowing them to self-surrender, as the federal government does with most nonviolent first-time offenders. And so this has been very troubling from top to bottom. Now, I will say the irony of this in some way, Tim, is that I mentioned just a minute ago that latter provision of if you intimidate or threaten to harm someone in a house of worship, that had never really been enforced before. And yet the Trump administration has said, well, so long as the FACE Act is on the book, we're going to enforce that provision too. And guess what? Don Lemon and the other individuals who really committed that shameful desecration in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Minnesota there, they are potentially facing charges under the FACE Act because the Trump administration is now enforcing that latter provision as well.
Speaking with Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zack, there's another burgeoning potential Fourth Amendment case that's coming along the pipe. We've learned that the FBI is buying information that tracks people's location history. That's the first time the FBI has confirmed that since 2023. Of course, as you know, the Supreme Court has required agencies to obtain a warrant for people's location data. But what the FBI is doing is they're buying that data from data brokers using alternative sources. Is there a potential loophole there that needs to be plugged? Do you see this as a potential Supreme Court case?
I don't know if I would call it as a loophole necessarily, Chris, because essentially the broader implication of this is something known as the third-party doctrine. Now, the third-party doctrine is very controversial, but it's been around for a long time. And essentially the idea is that if you voluntarily give your information to a third party to hold and to store, you don't have an expectation of privacy in that information, meaning a warrant wouldn't be needed for law enforcement to obtain it. And this first came to light with bank records. For many years, there's a question of whether or not government agencies would need a warrant to obtain your bank records if they're investigating you. And the Supreme Court developed and deployed this third-party doctrine to say that no, because you gave that information voluntarily to your bank, you couldn't expect it to remain private, so the bank can turn that over with just a subpoena or other investigatory request that the government makes. And so this is a very similar type of argument, I suspect, that's being made in this case as well. The same issue, the same type of issue has come up with a lot of the commercial genetics testing websites, 23andMe. For instance, there's a question whether or not federal law enforcement would need a warrant to get potential DNA data from some of these third-party websites, and this court has said no, again, because of that third-party doctrine. Now, one more quick point I'll make is where you see this really being challenged, this third-party doctrine being challenged today, is in the cryptocurrency space, because there's a real question about whether certain crypto exchanges, which don't have the traditional custodial functions that we think of like a bank, you know, when you open a bank account, your bank actually holds your money for you. They're kind of a third-party custodian of it. And yet cryptocurrency is essentially software. And so there's a real question over whether the third-party doctrine should apply in the cryptocurrency context, whether warrants should be required. But this is certainly an interesting case. I suspect there will be a lot of litigation over it, Chris. And I suspect this may be part of the larger conversation about whether that third-party doctrine needs to be revisited or revised in some form or fashion.
Zack, there's been some buzz developing about whether or not we will have any Supreme Court justice retirements over the next couple of years. The speculation kind of bounces back and forth between Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito, who I think are the oldest current sitting members. I can't remember how old Thomas is. I know I found an article, Alito is 76 years old. They both seem to be in pretty decent health, but Donald Trump has added a little fuel to this fire by he's happy to comment on anything and everything, right, Zack? He's like, oh, don't worry about it. I got a plan ready to roll. Zack, what do you think about the buzz around that? Is that just reporters with nothing else to do ginning up some gossip, or have you heard otherwise?
Well, look, I suspect you start to get this retirement buzz at the end of many terms. So we've seen it in the past, we're seeing it again now, we've seen it over the past couple of terms. I think it's really amplified this term, given the midterm elections are coming up. Some folks are fearful that maybe the Republicans could lose the Senate, so that can make it harder for Donald Trump to get a nominee confirmed. And so I suspect that's why you're seeing that conversation starting now. That if Justice Thomas, Justice Alito want to have an ideologically compatible replacement confirmed, this may be the window to make that happen. Now, Justice Thomas, I would be a little surprised if Justice Thomas stepped down at the end of this term. He is quickly moving up the list to become one of our nation's longest-serving justices. And so I suspect he will probably try to achieve that goal, becoming our nation's longest-serving justice. I believe that's currently held by Justice William O. Douglas. And so Justice Thomas may hold out to try to do that. Now, Justice Alito, he's been pretty coy about his intentions, hasn't really made any public statements about that, whether he intends to retire or not. But look, I think from a practical perspective, I don't know if Justice Alito has ever been in a better position to influence the outcomes of decisions that the court is deciding. It was not that long ago that he wrote the majority opinion in the Dobbs case overturning Roe versus Wade. He is a key member of the court in many of the religious liberty, free speech cases that are coming up as well. And so it'll be very interesting to wait and see what these justices decide to do. But look, I think part of the reason you're seeing this conversation again now is because there is very real concern that if openings do not happen now, it may be much more difficult for originalist conservative justices to be confirmed if the Senate were to change hands.
And finally, Zach, the Justice Department is launching an investigation into the NFL for anti-competitive tactics. I can tell you it's very frustrating when you want to watch a game and it's on YouTube or some other streaming channel. But is it anti-competitive if the NFL is basically selling its game to the highest bidder, and if YouTube wants it, then they get it, and if you want to watch the game, you got to pay for it? Does the Justice Department have a good case here?
Well, it'll be interesting to watch and see. Major League Baseball, the NFL have always had these carve-outs, essentially these exemptions from the antitrust laws, some statutory, some essentially read into it by the courts, and they have been very beneficial to these sports leagues. And look, Chris, I think we've talked about it before. I don't have any love lost for the NFL. They're very woke, have pushed very problematic policies, still do in many respects. But certainly, I think you're seeing the Federal Trade Commission, the DOJ, under the Trump administration, taking a very hard look at some of these anti-competitive practices that have developed.
That is Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation on xtzsmithheritage.org. Zach, thank you so much for your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak with you next Wednesday.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. Great talking with you.
Great talking to you. 443, Chris's Corner, the progressive left's bigotry problem. I'll tell you all about that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Ain't you cool?
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Get together again. She said, I'll see you after school. I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it takes to love me like I want to be loved by you.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a First Alert weather day as scattered storms this evening and a little past midnight could be severe. Hail and wind the main threats, but we'll be on guard for a lower tornado risk as well. It's a low severe risk overall, but still some scattered storms and a severe threat to be aware of for this evening and tonight. Then by morning, the storms are gone, low of 62, a high of 83 with sunshine coming out. Isolated storms should stay south of St. Louis Thursday late in the afternoon and evening, and most of the day dry with some sunshine. Friday, we have some sunshine and a warm day, a high of 87 degrees, and then watch for some storms in the evening or late evening and overnight. Those could be strong to severe Friday night as well. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
And then the media.
101.9 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
How do you build a tradition? How do you build a legacy? You have a great product that is supported by great people. That's what you're going to find at Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, our neighborhood jewelry store here in the St. Louis region. Since 1961, multi-generations of Newstetters still running the store. Yes, they are. Diana Newstetter will be happy to see y'all if you swing by. Say hello to her. Tell her that I or Jamie Allman sent you. They're located just 2 miles west of Interstate 270. They're 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. Why should you go to Newstetter's Fine Jewelers? How about for the Newstetter's difference? How about for their incredible stock of just about anything and everything you would look for in a jewelry store? Yes, they've got diamonds. They got tons of them, lab-grown and mined. They can put those diamonds into wedding and engagement rings. They can make you hand-engraved items, master engravers that they are. Watches, pendants, earrings, gemstones. They do repairs. They do watch repairs. They do jewelry refurbishment. Like if you've got a bunch of stuff sitting around in a drawer, it's probably pretty valuable. Stuff you've bought over the years. Maybe you're not wearing it anymore. Well, Newsteaders can reimagine it into something. They also do quality ring resizing. You know, our fingers, our hands change over the years, and they want you to keep wearing those beautiful rings you've purchased from them. They can do all of that and more. They're your one-stop shop. They are not a big, sterile, big box store. That's the biggest difference there. They love getting to know their clients and their customers, and that is that Newstetter's difference that you will feel. They got these beautiful stacker rings. That's kind of a big thing right now for the ladies. Kind of goes in combination with the wedding rings. They're absolutely fantastic. Diana's, I know, a big fan of those. Open weekdays, 10 a.m. to 5:30, Saturdays, 10 to 3. And you can find them and that Newstetter's difference 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. Mom's Day is right around the corner. Check them out at wowdiamonds.com.
The Laborers International Union of North America, Local 110, was formed in 1933 and from the beginning has strived for progress and the well-being of others. The laborers of Local 110 are hardworking men and women who take pride in their great work. They are the fastest-growing union of construction workers and one of the most effective unions representing plants and quarries. Laborers Local 110 has the best medical benefits, pension, education, and heavy construction training in the market. Visit lu110.com and start your future today.
There's something magical about walking into your backyard and knowing your family is completely safe and secure. Hi, I'm Sean Long, owner of STL Fence Works. That's the feeling my team and I have been creating for metro area families for more than 50 years. Whether you're adding your first fence or finally creating the outdoor sanctuary you've always wanted, we offer premium vinyl and stunning ornamental options, all designed around your family's specific needs and lifestyle. While other companies struggle with supply delays and rising costs, we've always proudly used all American-made materials, which means better pricing and faster installation for you. Our experienced craftsmen exemplify our motto, your satisfaction is our passion. From Warrenton to Wildwood, your neighbors trust us because we live here too. And we care about your project as much as you do. Right now is the golden time to build with flexible financing options and a commitment to completing your fence on time and on budget. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
On this date, 1,500 died on a luxury cruise. The story behind the story, the Titanic.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Chris's Corner, brought to you by STL Windows and Doors, locally owned and operated in Earth City. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Let me just ask you about the midterms. Do you expect the Republicans to lose seats in the House, and what does that mean for your agenda?
I think we're going to do good. Now, with that being said, when somebody gets elected president, that party always loses the midterms. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me, so we're going to try turning it around. You know, in 50 years, I guess the president, the party with the president, has won twice. We are really working hard to turn that around. We have to explain to the voters, so importantly, the great job that we've done.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
The progressive left's bigotry problem. The modern progressive movement has built its entire identity around claiming moral superiority. They lecture America about racism, about sexism, about intolerance, about inclusion. They portray themselves as the enlightened guardians of decency. And yet, over and over again, the ugliest prejudice in American politics keeps surfacing from inside their own coalition. This week, Utah Democrat Nate Bluen, a congressional candidate endorsed by Bernie Sanders, was exposed for a disgusting history of online comments. He suggested someone buy a GoPro camera for, quote, filming porn with your underage sister. Yeah. He threatened to skull F someone. He called Mormons a bunch of bigoted a-holes. He said Mormonism was an ideology fostering ignorance and intolerance. He called the LDS Church a front for the largest U.S. drug cartel and bragged that he took a crap in the corner of an LDS church parking lot. This is Bernie Sanders' endorsed progressive. And he's not alone. Bernie has also endorsed Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner, another progressive forced to apologize for offensive online posts, including comments demeaning rural white Americans and other inflammatory rhetoric. Now ask yourself, why does this keep happening? Why do the people constantly accusing everyone else of hatred keep getting caught expressing hatred themselves? Because the progressive movement has created a hierarchy of acceptable prejudice. If you attack the wrong groups, conservative, Christians, religious traditionalists, rural voters, white working class Americans, progressives often don't see that as bigotry. They see it as justice. And nowhere is that hypocrisy more obvious than on Israel. Look at the most anti-Israel voices in the Democratic Party. Almost all of them come from the progressive wing. Rashida Tlaib has accused Israel of apartheid and ethnic cleansing, supports BDS, and says progressives cannot support Israel's government and still claim progressive values. Ilhan Omar has repeatedly made comments about Israel and AIPAC that critics, including members of her own party, called anti-Semitic. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez opposed Iran's Iron Dome funding and routinely attacked pro-Israel lobbying groups. Pramila Jayapal called Israel, quote, a racist state. Ayanna Pressley, Summer Lee, and Jamal Brown have all taken sharply anti-Israel positions, supported aid restrictions, or voted against pro-Israel measures. Notice a pattern? The same ideological faction most hostile to Israel, the same faction most willing to demonize Jews who support Israel, the same faction most comfortable smearing religious conservatives, is also the faction where we keep finding explicit contempt for broad groups of people. Why? Because modern progressivism no longer judges people as individuals. It sorts everyone into categories: oppressor, oppressed, privileged, marginalized. And once someone is labeled oppressor, hatred toward them becomes morally justified. That's why progressives can denounce racism while practicing it, denounce religious bigotry while mocking faith communities, denounce hate while excusing anti-Semitism and anti-Christian hostility. They don't oppose prejudice. They simply believe some targets deserve it. That is not moral clarity. That is not justice. That is tribal bigotry dressed up as virtue. And the American people are starting to see through it. Because if your movement constantly claims to be the conscience of the nation while repeatedly elevating people who spew hatred and contempt, you're not fighting bigotry, you're institutionalizing it. And that is Versus Corner.
I'd love to know, I'd love somebody to do an analysis of when the left, when Democrats, elected Democrats, began to stop having good ideas. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like JFK cut taxes. I don't know if folks know that, remember that, are aware of that. Bill Clinton had the welfare to work model that they now despise on the left, right? I mean, so I'm not saying that the Democrats of yesteryear were perfect. Not at all. I don't know that I'd support them now. But at least then they had ideas. Seems like, Chris, their ideas now are to do exactly what you just said. Attack other people, divide other people, and spend lots of money on really silly things.
Exactly. Joey, can you play cut 9, please?
I'm not going to speak for the president. I'm speaking for myself, a lifelong Catholic. I wish they stay out of immigration. They don't know what they're talking about. Because if they wore my shoes for 40 years and talked to a 9-year-old girl that got raped multiple times, or stood in the back of tractor trailer with 19 dead aliens at my feet, including a 5-year-old boy that baked to death, if they understood the atrocities that happened on the open border, I think their opinion would change. And I welcome discussion with any of them because they don't understand. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. What President Trump had the most secure border in the lifetime of this nation right now. Lives are being saved. He's saving thousands of lives a year because he has a secure border. Human traffickers are out of business, right? The cartels are going bankrupt because of that secure border.
And President Trump chimed in on that last night on Truth Social. He said about Pope Leo XIV, will someone please tell Pope Leo that Iran has killed at least 42,000 innocent, completely unarmed protesters in the last 2 months. Now, of course, the media is jumping upon all of this, and they're saying that President Trump is driving Catholics away from the Republican Party, that they're not going to support him. But a very interesting poll came out today, Tim. It said that 50% of Catholics who go to church approve of Trump taking military action against Iran. Those who attend church still support the president by a 58 to 42% margin. That number flips to 42% approve, 58% disapprove among those Catholics who never or rarely attend Mass. So the media, of course, is trying to drive a divide between the Republican Party and Catholics by some of the remarks that the president has made about Pope Leo that I think are unfortunate. But it's not making a real dent among Catholics who attend Mass regularly, according to a latest poll.
Yeah, I would agree with that. No, these things are not mutually exclusive. They're inclusive of each other. And from what I know and have seen as a lifelong Catholic, as someone who does try to go to and I do. I pretty much go to Mass every single week. I try to hit all the high holy days. Do I screw up and sin every day too? I sure do. But practice makes perfect, right? And so I continue to try to practice my faith. And what I see, Chris, is the silent majority within the Catholic Church is conservative and orthodox. And I think that's been proven by the upsurge and the interest in our younger generations of things like the Latin Mass. I've never been to a Latin Mass, but you know who has been? My oldest daughter, twice in the last year and a half. And I asked Katie about that. I said, so does anybody go to this Latin Mass at midnight on Christmas? She said, Dad, it's standing room only and people can't get in the doors. So I would argue that the majority of Catholics are on the conservative side of the political spectrum. I don't like putting politics into questions of faith and religion, but everybody brings, you take people as you find them, and I think the majority of Catholics are right there with Tom Homan and what he just said.
And I did a Chris's Corner last week about the Democrats and their impeachment bug that they seem to be on. And just today, Tim, several House Democrats introduced 5 articles of impeachment against Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Can't help themselves.
The impeachments continue. All right, coming up, we're going to speak with Patti Fox. She's an angel mother of Carissa Aspinus, who was severely disabled by an illegal alien last year. But before that, we'll have the Speaker's Stump Speech.
Putting more prosperity back in the people's pockets.
All that and more coming up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Sunday, April 26th is packed with fun. When the Cardinals welcome the Seattle Mariners, you can score a classic chain-stitch Cardinals hat presented by Coca-Cola. Plus, kids 12 and under receive a Fredbird Hall of Fame ring presented by the Pasta House Company. And get the chance to run the bases after the game. Giveaways, post-game fun, and Cardinals baseball all in one big Sunday showdown. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Matthew Liberatore. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com.
Every Sunday home game is a Kids Sunday at Busch Stadium. From Team Fredbird and games to a kid-friendly DJ, ice cream, and family favorite activities. Sundays are built for young fans. Plus, select Sundays feature kids run the bases after the game. It's a day made for smiles, memories, and Cardinals baseball together. Make Sundays your family tradition at Busch Stadium. Tickets and details at cardinals.com/KidsSunday.
What if Missouri eliminated its income tax entirely?
Find out how at the Road to Zero Income Tax Town Hall.
Hosted by News Talk STL's own Mike Ferguson.
Joined by Senator Nick Schroer and Representative Ben Keithley.
Come ready with your questions and get the facts on the plan to phase out Missouri's income tax for good.
Thursday, April 30th at the Lodge de Pere. Presented by AFP Missouri and Mo Tax Relief Now.
RSVP today at afpmissouri.com. That's afpmissouri.com.
Producer Joey V from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here, reminding you, don't waste a buck on movies that suck. Tune in to Joey V's Movies Fridays at 5:45 for reviews you can trust. Brought to you by Harry J. Steakhouse in Moscow Mills.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. It's tax day in the United States, and the Treasury Department says 53 million Americans used new Trump tax exemptions before the April 15th tax deadline.
It's tax day, the deadline for most Americans to file taxes, and the Trump administration says millions of people have already used new tax breaks, such as no tax on tips and overtime, exemptions for interest on certain car loans, deductions for some seniors, and Trump accounts for children's savings. More than 53 million filers claimed a deduction under one of those provisions from the Republicans' massive tax and spending law, with 6 million people claiming no tax on tips, 21 million claiming the overtime deduction, and 30 million older Americans claiming the enhanced deduction. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
An unusual April heat wave could smash record temperatures in the eastern U.S.
A long-lasting weather pattern is blasting hot air across the eastern U.S. and threatening to shatter record highs. Cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Atlanta are experiencing unusual April heat. Forecasters say the near-record temperatures could last into the weekend. The heat follows severe storms in Kansas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. More storms are in the forecast for the Midwest. Experts note that the duration of this heat wave is rare for April. The heat can be stressful on the human body, especially since many have not yet acclimated to higher temperatures. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Meanwhile, powerful storms ripped through parts of Michigan, damaging 2 ice arenas and other structures, and felling branches near the University of Michigan's main campus. A mixed day on Wall Street, with the Dow down by 72 points, but the Nasdaq rose 376. The S&P 500 advanced 55. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Spring cleaning isn't just for your house, it's for your life. If your job is getting old, it's time to clear the clutter and spring into IT. Go to My Computer Career.
My Computer Career helped me get the skills and certifications I needed to start a new life as an IT professional in months, not years.
Earn the certifications the top employers are looking for right now. Visit mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation to see if it's time to spring into IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
What is it, boy? Someone need help? Someone in trouble? Oh, okay. So you just want me to get Progressive Auto Insurance because their collision coverage covers up to $1,000 in vet bills if you're injured in an accident? That's it? Okay. Calm down. Let's not resort to name calling.
Progressive's collision coverage helps pay for care for your pet when they're in the car during an accident.
No, you're right. Sorry. I shouldn't have said calm down.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage included with purchase of collision coverage.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a First Alert weather day as scattered storms this evening and a little past midnight could be severe. Hail and wind the main threats, but we'll be on guard for a lower tornado risk as well. It's a low severe risk overall, but still some scattered storms and a severe threat to be aware of for this evening and tonight. Then by morning, the storms are gone, low of 62, a high of 83 with sunshine coming out. Isolated storms should stay south of St. Louis Thursday late in the afternoon and evening, and most of the day dry with some sunshine. Friday, we have some sunshine and a warm day, a high of 87 degrees, and then watch for some storms in the evening or late evening and overnight. Those could be strong to severe Friday night as well. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
It's not pleasant to hear it, but Missouri is falling behind in its spending of state tax dollars, education, and health care. But there are ways to get Missouri moving forward again and produce a better life for all of us. That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together a 2026 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can move to a brighter future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from taxes to government transparency, from education to healthcare and budget reform. Let's allow students to attend the school of their choice. Let's adopt new proven methods to help the many school kids who can barely read. Let's limit state spending growth for Missouri's long-term financial stability. And let's invest in future needs with more nuclear energy. Why not common sense reforms to make things better for all Missourians? Check out our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
News, analysis, opinion.
We cannot live in a world where we have radical Islamic terrorists threatening to hold the world's oil market and global economy hostage like this.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
My wonderful wife, Becky, and I, we recently discovered a place that has quickly become one of our new favorite restaurants, and I've got to tell you how we found it. Royal Bank CEO Mitch Baden actually introduced me to Timothy's. He took me there to lunch one day, and after that first visit, Becky and I went back together, and now it's one of our favorite places to go. If you haven't been yet, you need to check it out. The atmosphere and ambience are terrific. It's one of those places where you can relax, you can enjoy a great meal, and just slow down for a while. Becky absolutely loved the lobster pot pie, and I love the steak tip pasta. Everything we've tried has been outstanding. Timothy's is led by executive chef Will Mabry and features contemporary American cuisine with a touch of Southern charm. Dishes like pastrami smoked lamb, shrimp and grits, and incredible house-made desserts like carrot cake fritters with cream icing. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. And if you're a wine lover like my wife, you'll appreciate this. They have over 500 wines to choose from. Timothy's is open 7 nights a week for dinner, plus lunch and brunch, and it's also a great place if you're planning a private event or gathering. Check them out at Timothy's, 12710 Olive Boulevard in the Belle Reve Plaza in Creve Coeur, or online at timothysstl.com. And when you get there, tell them Chris Arps sent you.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I don't understand why other Democrats can't acknowledge that pulverizing the Iranian military and their capabilities, that's a good thing. Every single president since 1979 wanted to deal with it. Could you imagine if Iran acquired a nuclear bomb, where they would be right now? Or they were able to build the kinds of missiles that could reach Europe or the other American assets in the region for that. So that was necessary. That's the right side of history for me.
Yeah, John Fetterman there making more sense these days than some Republicans on Capitol Hill. Chris, he's kind of coming at this from the aspect of like the everyman, the every woman, Joe and Jane American.
I mean, I look at it as Iran is at its weakest point in 47 years. They were weakened severely last year when Israel and the United States bombed their nuclear facilities. They have domestic unrest within their country. They've killed 45,000 of their own citizens, and they've said that they want to develop a nuclear bomb to basically destroy Israel and bring on the Mahdi, their prophet. So this is the best time to take them out, and we know what this is really all about. It's because President Trump initiated this action. If Joe Biden or if Barack Obama would have done this, they'd be cheering from the rooftops.
They would, just like they did with the incursions that Biden made with the, remember the, what did they call that? The Arab Spring. The media literally called that the Arab Spring when Biden went in and dismantled the rest of what was left of Gaddafi, right? And was that Gaddafi?
That was Obama. When he did that, we had that Libya campaign.
The Libya campaign.
The undeclared war where he bombed Libya for like 6 or 7 months.
The media was cheerleading that.
Yeah.
They were he should win another Nobel Peace Prize for the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
I believe that ended up ultimately resulting in the rise of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Look, I know a lot of conservatives who are, some of whom I respect. You got some of the wing nuts and the grifters, but a lot of conservatives who we can absolutely agree to disagree are not happy with this. On the other hand, I say to them, do you want to take what you just read some quotes there? Do you want to take Iran at their word or not? I know they lie, but do you want to presume that they're lying? Are they lying about the great and the little Satan? Are they lying about wanting to enrich uranium to the point where they can weaponize it and put it on warheads? Are they lying about taking out whatever they can take out in Europe and in the U.S.? I mean, they've already killed, over the last 50 years, 1,200 Americans and injured thousands of others. I mean, do you want to take the risk that Iran may or may not be lying about their desire to destroy Western civilization?
And I think a lot of people of good conscience are against this war because they feel it's going to be a long, protracted war, and we're going to be over there for 20 years like we were in Afghanistan. And then, of course, like you said, Tim, you've got the grifters that are just that are isolations and don't want this war because it gives them clicks and it gives them money, makes them money, and gives them credibility in their own followers' minds. But I think the main thing for a lot of the people that don't support this is they are afraid of a long, protracted war. And if the president can spell out that we have a plan, that we're not going to be there forever, that these are our objectives, I think that he could bring a lot of those people along.
Yeah, and that's where I would draw a line, too. I think, and it's not because I'm smart, it's because of what we've watched, right? And I think we've learned over the last several decades, we cannot nation build in the Middle East. It just doesn't work. We tried. I know we tried with the best of intentions. A lot of military men and women lost their lives along the way. A lot of military men and women tried to make a difference over there. I credit them for that. We were building things in Afghanistan and all. We were trying to help. And unless the people embrace that and are willing to take the baton and run, it's not going to work out. So we can help the Iranians get to a point where they can take back their government, but we cannot stay there long term and run their government or their nation for them, because we've seen it doesn't work.
For me, this war is a success if we knock back Iranians' nuclear ambitions for several years or maybe a decade. If we eliminate them, eliminate the opportunity for them to fund Hezbollah and Hamas and all the other terrorist groups. And even though the regime stays in place, they are a weakened regime that can give the people there impetus to try to overthrow their government. If we can achieve all those objectives and, of course, open the Strait of Hormuz and keep oil flowing, but if we can achieve those objectives, I would be more than happy for a pullout, declare the victory, and let's move on.
Yep. I do not want the younger people in my life, including my children and their eventual grandchildren, to have to live in a world where you have a terroristic regime that does not care about anything other than itself, lording over them with nuclear weapons. That's kind of where I think we'd all like to eventually be. They're talking taxes up on Capitol Hill in Jefferson City, and there's a big tax cut plan that Governor Mike Kehoe has endorsed, and legislative leaders have moved up to the point where it is on the Senate floor calendar. They can go to it at any point in time over the next 4.5 weeks. Yeah, only 4.5 weeks left in session, and we're seeing that when you provide people tax relief, your nation, your community, your state does better. There's a long list of those things that are coming out from the One Big Beautiful Bill, and a lot of folks are talking about this as not as unhappy as a tax day as it has been in the past, and that will be the subject of today's Speaker's Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
I believe it was... I'm sorry. Maria's going to talk first.
These are fantastic numbers, Cheryl. Look at this report, because what we're seeing is it has not trickled down fully to the producer, which is good news because maybe they're not going to pass it on to the consumer for the next report. But great reporting, Cheryl. We got a rally on stocks. These numbers are much better than expected.
Yeah, things are definitely turning around. And, you know, if there was not a war in the Middle East and if oil was not under pressure, we'd probably even be further ahead. But because we have a stronger economy now than we've had in many years, that is why the Trump administration decided to largely proceed with these matters in the Middle East. Hopefully they can wrap that up and we can get back to working on domestic matters here, because domestic matters here, we didn't have a lot of happy news and joyful headlines during the Biden-Harris years. They destroyed the economy, and I wish all of the experts would admit that. The so-called experts are starting to admit some of the horrific things that they subjected us to during the COVID years. So maybe they're just running, 4 or 5 years behind. Maybe eventually we will get to the point where the so-called financial experts, the economic experts, will admit that when Joe Biden injected trillions of dollars, more than, I believe, all the other previous presidents combined, into his ridiculous adventures of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was nothing more than the Inflation Creation Act, the ARPA funds, and we're still seeing the problems with that here on the state level. We're trying to figure out how to fill those holes now in the budget. Thankfully, we didn't overspend too much, but we definitely need to ratchet back. The Biden administration did massive damage to our economy, and people won't admit it because then they would have to admit that the left doesn't have any good ideas, as we discussed earlier, when it comes to the proper role of government. I believe it was Milton Friedman. I wrote this quote down. I think it was Milton Friedman I saw the other day. He was talking about taxes, which we're talking about today here on Tax Day. When men once get into the habit of helping themselves to the property of others, they are not easily cured of it. Boy, is that true. Folks, I don't know if you know much about the history of the federal income tax, but it was deployed by one of the worst presidents of all time, definitely one of the worst Democratic presidents of all time, Woodrow Wilson, back in 1913. And what they said at that time was, we are only going to tax the ultra wealthy in this country. And that's how it did start. But you should all know by now, if you've been frequent flyers and listeners to our show and News Talk STL in general, that we always explain to you that government programs, no matter how well intended, quickly and almost always go off the rails. Name me something besides the U.S. military that the government runs that we go, yeah, that's the way we should do it. I mean, no one's running around going, whoa, VA healthcare. Boy, we should emulate that across the nation and across the world. That's the model of healthcare excellence. No, we constantly hear about how badly in need of reform it is. And I know that's something that the current administration is working on. Do we ever say, oh, bully for the IRS? So glad that we have that organization. Oh, my goodness, all of these agencies and bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. and in Jefferson City, they've made life so much better. No, we constantly complain about the things that government is involved in. Why? Largely because government doesn't have as much accountability to the people as it once had. We have so layered government that there's too many bureaucrats and agencies and rules and regulations between we, the people who are supposed to be giving the consent to the government, the people we elect, and the governments that they're supposed to be trying to run. They've gotten so big and so unwieldy. Well, one of the biggest things the Trump administration is doing is trying to starve government, put government on a diet just a little bit. A lot more work needs to be done there. But when you take prosperity that the people have created and you give it back to them from whence it came, when you remove all of that power from the government only gets its power from what it can take from the people. And so when you put that back, the people tend to do better off. Now, Grover Norquist, who I do work for Americans for Tax Reform, Grover has a great quote that he made him famous back in the day. He said this many decades ago. He said, some people think that I want no government. No, I just want to reduce government to a size so small that I can drown it in a bathtub. And of course, the liberals all clutched their pearls and shrieked and were horrified at that. But because government does pretty much everything so badly that it gets involved in, most people believe that we should be returning more of that money back to the people. I wish government government is supposed to do a few things. It's supposed to do them really well. And maybe if government got back to doing those few things on the federal level, protecting the rights of the people as stated in the Constitution, making sure that our borders are safe and secure and our nation is sovereign, making sure that we have a proper, functional, efficient system of vibrant and diverse legal immigration, making sure that our military has all that it needs. We have Senator Talent on every week, and almost every other week or so, Senator Talent mentions how woefully behind we are with things like we still have the best fighting force on the planet, but it needs to be better. putting things into like space exploration, those things. But why have we gotten into so many other areas that we should not be in? Look, I wish we could wave the magic government wand, put some taxpayer dollars into certain programs, and just cure people of all their ills and problems. But government doesn't do that. Everything the government gets into, it tends to make that thing more expensive. Child care, health care, insurance in general, you name it. And it makes it worse. What are the American people enjoying this year because of the One Big Beautiful Bill? Well, they're enjoying more money back in their pocket because individuals tend to make better decisions for themselves, their families, their businesses, and their communities than some allegedly imaginary, omnipotent, centralized governing operation. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had several stats today where he talked about the One Big Beautiful Bill's tax relief provisions. Over 6 million filers have claimed the no tax on tips provision, with an average deduction of, get this, over $7,100. Over 25 million filers have claimed no tax on overtime, with an average deduction of $3,100. Over 30 million seniors have claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors, with an average deduction of over $7,500, and over 1 million filers have deducted the no tax on car loan interest on their new American vehicles with an average deduction over $1,800. This is for American families who actually pay taxes. You know, folks, half the country doesn't pay taxes. We have a huge social safety net. The poor are not going to be hurt by tax cuts because that vibrant social safety net will continue. It is the middle class, working people that the One Big Beautiful Bill was meant to help, and they're the ones that are carrying the load. The Washington Post, of all places, actually declared today on tax day that our current income tax system is actually very progressive, and it actually hits the rich and the wealthy the most. Oh my goodness, I guess they proved that the broken clock rule is sometimes absolutely correct. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
Yeah. Tax day, April 15th. Whew. The day that will live in infamy.
Forever and ever until we move to a fair tax system consumption society. Don't hold your breath. Chris, we've got a very special guest coming up next. We're going to speak to an angel mom. We're going to speak to Patti Fox, who is the angel mom of Carissa Aspenis, about how Joe Biden's immigration policies failed her daughter. We're going to get the whole story from her. Sure, it'll be a powerful interview indeed. And then we're going to wrap up the program with a bunch of very interesting things, including the Time 100 list of, Chris, is it the most famous people in the world?
Most influential, and I've got a golf story for you, Tim.
Oh, I'm excited to hear that as well. All that and more when the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show rolls on here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a First Alert weather day as scattered storms this evening and a little past midnight could be severe. Hail and wind the main threats, but we'll be on guard for a lower tornado risk as well. It's a low severe risk overall, but still some scattered storms and a severe threat to be aware of for this evening and tonight. Then by morning, the storms are gone, low of 62, a high of 83 with sunshine coming out. Isolated storms should stay south of St. Louis Thursday late in the afternoon and evening, and most of the day dry with some sunshine. Friday, we have some sunshine and a warm day, a high of 87 degrees, and then watch for some storms in the evening or late evening and overnight. Those could be strong to severe Friday night as well. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Well, you just heard Steve Templeton there talk about the fact we are still very firmly immersed in spring storm season. That also means we're fully immersed in fly-by-night roofer season as well. Well, when those goobers come to your door, tell them no thank you. You've already got Corel Roofing Company by your side. All you got to do is go to CorelRoofingCo.com and see everything that this awesome, independently owned, locally owned, family-owned company can do for you and your roof. Corel Roofing Co. is at CorelRoofingCo.com, CORRELL. More than 20-plus years of experience, and they have gotten it all here right here locally in our region. I know the folks I know him personally at Correll Roofing Co. Curtis Correll and the gang there have built an incredible company, very successful. They're very busy, but they're more than happy to take your business as well, and because they're going to do a great job for you. They will advocate with your insurance company from start to finish. They will provide you excellent and total peace of mind. They'll get up on your roof and inspect it so you don't have to figure out whether or not your roof has been damaged or not by any of these storms. So go to Correll Roofing Company today. See all the great things they can do for you. Schedule your appointment now. Get them up on your roof. You don't need to be getting up there. They're the experts. Have them check it out. Simply go to CorrellRoofingCo.com. CorrellRoofingCo.com. Your one-stop roof and shop.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free and home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This mom just got back from D.C. today after meeting with top Trump officials and other families over a federal program. This program is called VOICE.
Now, VOICE stands for Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement. It's a program President Trump created in his first term. Then former President Biden dismantled it in favor of a program his administration said was more inclusive. When President Trump took office again, he reinstated VOICE, which provides services to victims of crimes committed by undocumented immigrants.
And we're going to speak to that wonderful mom, that wonderful lady leader right now here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We are joined by Patti Fox, the angel mother of Carissa Apsnez, and we're going to learn her story, the importance of the VOICE program, and how we can be as strong of advocates as she has been in standing up for Americans over this absolute scourge of illegal alien crime that we've seen wash all across our country over the last many years. Patti, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us here in St. Louis on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
And Patti, I think we played a clip of you a couple weeks ago because Chris and I cover this issue quite a bit here. Our whole station does. We have 6 live and local shows every day, and we're just as concerned about this as you are, especially given the personal connection you now have to this. And Patti, first of all, thank you for having the courage, and thank you for your advocacy. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit? Tell us the story of your daughter and how you have now become an advocate for her and for all young ladies like her who are in a similar position.
In February of 2025, Carissa had moved back to Colorado. She had been living in Chicago for a year and exploring new things, and had moved back and with just a fire in her to push forward to the next phase of her life. She was in esthetician school with the idea of launching her own skincare line. She was extremely ambitious, and my daughter achieved anything that she put her mind to. And March 28th, just 11 days after we had celebrated her 22nd birthday, I get a phone call just shy of midnight that there had been an accident. After tracking everything down, and she didn't have her ID on her, so nobody was, forthright about giving information out, of course. But we were finally able to locate the hospital that she was at, and they pretty much told us that we need to get there as soon as possible. We got there, and the doctor came in and told us that she was very sick. And my heart just sank, and I cried out to the Lord like I have never before. Just please not my daughter, please not tonight. We were able to see her for about 5 seconds before they wheeled her into emergency life-saving surgery to remove half of her skull because the right side of right hemisphere of her brain was swelling so quickly that it was pushing down into her brain stem. We learned after the fact that they did not think that she was going to make it. It's pretty much a miracle that she is still with us today. And it would take a while for us to kind of learn the full story of it. We knew that the driver had fled the scene. We knew that she turned herself in several hours after the accident, after she had fled, without calling 911, without checking on Carissa, just left her on the side of the road. And she turned herself in. They held her in custody for just shy of 48 hours, released her on a $500 bond. That was it. And mind you, at this point in time, they had no idea if Carissa was going to live or die. So the fact that they let her out on a $500 bond, and the fact that the driver had already fled the scene once, they didn't consider this person a flight risk. So it was all just very overwhelming. Everything was coming at us all at once. And at that point in time, I was just focused on being there with my daughter and praying over her and talking to her and hopefully seeing her come through this. And it would be, slowly information would come to us over time. And it was probably about, it was in November that we finally got the confirmation that there were issues with this driver's immigration status, that ICE had entered the conversation at that point. And by January, we received confirmation that she was, in fact, an illegal alien. So, the anger that I felt that this information had been withheld from us was just consuming.
Patti, let me ask you this. Is Carissa your only child? Do you have other children? And what is the prognosis for Carissa?
I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. She's my oldest daughter, my second youngest. And my other two of my other children have moved nearby us so that they could be nearby and to be a part of Chris's care. Doctors say that she's not likely to recover. It's a statistical probability that what we have today is where she'll stay. she is nonverbal and minimally conscious. She does not speak. She communicates through like grunts and groans. And she doesn't have a whole lot of control over her body. She's in a wheelchair. But God is big.
Yes.
So we lean on his promises.
Patti, can you tell us more about the Voice program that has been mentioned in the news reporting? We understand the Trump administration created that program. It was then dismantled by the Biden administration, and the president, Donald Trump, brought it back again for his second term. What has been your experience with that program? What have you learned about it? Why are you a fan? Are you an advocate for it?
Oh, I am so incredibly thankful to President Trump for reinstating that program. Part of our journey, like I had said before, was just trying to get information. And it is not out there readily available. It's certainly not by mainstream media or, just typical sources. I had taken our story to X and began sharing it there. And that's where we started finding out, number one, we weren't the only family. We had no idea that there was this entire group of angel families. We didn't know that was a thing, but for X. And once I got on there and her story got some traction and that kind of thing, that's when I learned about these services like Voice. I had submitted a report through them about the driver and the people that had fled with her. And it was super easy to use. Just kind of walked me through the whole process. I submitted the police report, and a couple weeks later, they were able to confirm that she had in fact been taken into custody, and by February 28th, it was confirmed that she was back in Venezuela. It's the only justice that my family and my daughter was ever going to see. Being in Colorado, in a blue state where, they don't just not tell our story, they actively suppress it. So for the first time, having somebody actually there to listen that was in a position to do something about it, I can't even say in words how grateful I am for this. And then having the peace of mind that came with the confirmation that this person can no longer hurt another American citizen and no longer impact a family again like she had impacted ours.
Patti, let me ask you this. Was there ever any charges that were leveled against this illegal immigrant? And would you have rather have her still stay in the United States and spend considerable time in jail for this crime, or are you more satisfied with her being deported?
There were 5 charges initially. I believe 2 of them were felonies and the other 3 were misdemeanors. Driving without a license, driving without insurance, kind of incidentals like that. There was a plea deal offered, which is how we found out that ICE had entered into the conversation. The plea deal was for her to take the highest felony, which was a Class 5 felony, conspiracy to flee the scene of an accident with severe bodily injury. And that carried the most weight, so to speak. If she were to take the plea and plead guilty for that, the other 4 would simply just go away. And she had gotten 7 continuances when we were told that she was only going to get 6. And there was an attempt to leverage that plea with, well, protection from deportation. We need to find out how taking this plea affects her immigration status, kind of thing. And so when we found out that she had been deported, it was a mixed bag of emotions. There was a part of me that wanted her to stand for the sentencing, since she did eventually take the plea. I think more than anything, I wanted the chance to look her in the face and tell her what she did to our family, and which I would have been able to do by, reading a victim impact statement. But at the end of the day, the one felony that she pled to carried a max sentence of 3 years.
Oh my God.
And that's max, and that's at the judge's discretion. So the likelihood that she would have served any time was pretty low. So having her removed from the United States was, I'm fairly convinced was the only real justice that we were going to see.
Patti, before we let you go, what would you like to say about the policies of these sanctuary cities, these sanctuary states? As you said, most of the media, not us, but a lot of the national media, the big media, not only do they not cover these stories, but they try to cover them up. And I have a feeling that with your journey, your amazing, heroic journey, and that of your daughters, that you've probably met a lot of families similarly situated along the way. And I'll bet that these situations are not as anecdotal as the media would like us to believe. I'll bet there's a lot more stories like yours out there than we even know about.
Yeah, well, that's the most common response when I share her story. Oh, it's very dismissive. It could have been an American citizen. It could happen, these things happen to everyone, or people all the time. And, Americans, commit hit and runs and so on and so forth. Just to, like I said, just to diminish and dismiss the gravity of what we're dealing with here. And had I not met these other families, I would have fallen for it. And through meeting the Angel Family Network, through various organizations that have put me in touch with them, it's massive. We're talking thousands of families. We're not talking about one or two. We're not talking about, some freak accident or, just some outlying. This is affecting families every day across the United States. And I think that is the most important part of all this. I wouldn't have known any of this if I was just relying on mainstream media. It is widespread and it is huge, and we have to stop dismissing, and we have to stop, pushing things off. Oh, that's a one-off. That's a one-off. How many one-offs do we need to have before we start paying attention? We've got to pay attention. We've got to crack down. We know that we the people want secure borders. We want deportations to happen. We want people to be here legally. And I know that we want this because our president promised us this, and he's our 47th president. So that, confirms it to me that this is what we the people want, and we need to start listening.
Patti, before we let you go, I know that a GoFundMe account has been set up for Carissa. It has a goal of $150,000. A little under 17 has been raised. Give folks the address for that, and hopefully we can put that on our website to help raise funds as well.
Oh, you know what? I don't even know it at the top of my head.
Well, I've got it. I've got it here on my website. We can put that up and try to do something and help out.
Patti, thank you so much for your bravery and your courage and your advocacy, and we want to wish you all the best, and we hope that more miracles happen. Sounds like several miracles have happened along this journey, and we pray for more for you and your daughter, Carissa, and for your family.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Patti Fox, angel mother of Carissa Aspnez. I can't imagine what this family goes through now every single day. Their young, vibrant daughter is now wheelchair bound. She's nonverbal. She's minimally conscious, and yet I'm sure they love her more than they ever have. But it's going to be a tough road for them to hoe.
And 23 years old. She was just beginning life. She sounded like she was very ambitious, and now her life is ruined by this illegal immigrant who really got away with this because the only thing she had to face was deportation back to Venezuela. Didn't spend any jail time.
Mm-hmm. And as she said, as Patti said, these are not anecdotal incidences. They're happening way too many times. Folks, I have the information for the Voice office, the ICE Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement office. It's 1-888-48-VOICE. I'm sorry, 1-855-48-VOICE. There's a website, ice.gov/voice. So ice.gov/voice. You probably get a lot of information there. And Chris, you have found the GoFundMe page for the family.
Yes, I'll pass that on to Joy. And go to our website, News Talk STL, and please donate if you can.
There you go. We're glad to bring you this incredible, heart-wrenching, and amazing story. All right, we've got one segment left. We're going to talk about the Time Magazine 100 list of the most influential people in the world.
And a golf story.
And a golf story to boot. All of that when we return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a First Alert weather day as scattered storms this evening and a little past midnight could be severe. Hail and wind the main threats, but we'll be on guard for a lower tornado risk as well. It's a low severe risk overall, but still some scattered storms and a severe threat to be aware of for this evening and tonight. Then by morning, the storms are gone, low of 62, a high of 83 with sunshine coming out. Isolated storms should stay south of St. Louis Thursday late in the afternoon and evening, and most of the day dry with some sunshine. Friday, we have some sunshine and a warm day, a high of 87 degrees, and then watch for some storms in the evening or late evening and overnight. Those could be strong to severe Friday night as well. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
We talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
101.9 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL.
You know, with today's advancements in the healthcare world, in the healthcare sphere, especially in the chiropractic world, you do not have to live with pain. I know many of you are. I have sometimes gone way too long. Oh, you know, especially us guys, right? Oh, it'll be fine. It's just a flesh wound. I'll get better. It's just a little blood. It's just an ache and pain. You know, when I fell and cracked my knee, it'll eventually feel better. You don't have to live with pain. Go to Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance, and they can help you be on the road to recovery much faster. You can also go to them for maybe things that have developed over, so they can take care of acute injuries, like if you do have a fall or you have an accident, or maybe you're trying to recover from surgery. But they can also help you with things, kind of just those repetition injuries, right? Just from doing things a lot or getting older. And you can be young or old with repetition injuries. If you're an athlete, high school, college, or you're a weekend warrior, you get repetition injuries. I had a tendonitis problem in my elbow. It was my left. I think it was my left elbow. I've forgotten because they took care of it. But it was horrible, and I put up with it for way many more weeks than I should have. You know, trying to be a tough guy, and I wish I had mentioned it earlier. Got it taken care of. The chiropractic care these days has advanced, just like so much else in the healthcare field. They can also help you get into shape, stay into shape, get back into shape. They've got the Studio Health and Wellness Center at Comprehensive Chiropractic at cchiropractic.com. Pilates classes, yoga classes, a ton of other disciplines that you can check out. Great classes with great instructors in a non-judgy atmosphere. Licensed massage therapists. They have personal trainers available. If you want a whole body makeover, They've got nutritional needs. They've got nutritional experts there as well that can kind of help you with supplements, like don't just buy a bunch of random stuff at the store. How about ask the professionals, like, what are these things for? How much should I be taking? Should I be taking this, that, or the other thing? They can help you with your whole body from stem to stern, people of all ages, doesn't matter who you are. Check out Comprehensive Chiropractic. I promise you will feel better. They're at cchiropractic.com. That's where Comprehensive Chiropractic is, at cchiropractic.com. Check them out for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
This Saturday, Country Mart opens at 6 a.m. with deals that disappear when the clock strikes 10 p.m. Get Best Choice boneless, skinless chicken breast, 2.5-pound bag, just $4.99. California Sunkist mandarins, 3-pound bag, $3.99. Ground beef family pack, $4.29 a pound. Dr. Pepper or 7-Up, 6-pack, 16-ounce bottles, 4 for $10. Best Choice granulated sugar, 2 4-pound bags, $5. Chester's fresh made 8-piece fried chicken, only $9.99. While supplies last, no rain checks. 925 Plaza Drive in St. Clair.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
How do you address the false trope that a lot of the left levels against conservatives and the pro-life movement when they say, well, you conservatives, you care about the child when it's unborn and you don't want it to be aborted, but when the child is born, you conservatives and Republicans, you abandon the child. How do you address that when people say that to you?
Well, a lot of times what I say is, what is your evidence? It sounds cute to say that, but where's your evidence? Where are you getting at that somehow Republicans or conservative policy is adverse to a child being born? At first, we're giving them life, which is the first start. And then also, we believe in capitalism, the empowerment of the family unity, all of the things that we agree with that they don't. So when they say we don't care about, the child after the child is born, that's a lie from the pit of hell. And I just encourage people, when you encounter somebody like that, you say, give me evidence. You can't just run your mouth and say that that's true. I want you to show me what policy position do conservatives have that is against the betterment and the prosperity of the family unit. And then you can also push it back on them because they're the ones telling women that they should go into this alone. They're the ones acting as if, the family structure is not one of the most important structures in human existence. And so they're the ones that are really not supportive of the child from the womb to the tomb.
5:53, and that is TPUSA contributor Brandon Tatum. He was the keynote speaker last night at the Vitae annual dinner that they have every year and fundraiser. And Mike Ferguson was there last night. We were at a table that in News Talk STL sponsored, and very touching talk that he had last night, Tim. He talked about how abortion has affected his own family. He has not had any abortions, but he mentioned that his grandmother was had at 12 years old. His mother had his grandmother had his mother at 12 years old. That's a difficult thing. He told the story about how his 15-year-old sister, who was a valedictorian, model student, she ended up getting pregnant and ended up keeping the baby. Talking about how now she is married. She's a nurse, studying to be a nurse practitioner. She just is married. Her husband finished the police academy, and he told a personal story of his own that after he finished college, he and a young lady had a baby, and he decided that he was not going to abort that child, that he was going to stand by the woman. He told a very touching story how she told him that they were going to Planned Parenthood. He didn't know that Planned Parenthood is where you have abortions. He thought it was something to help raise the child. And she
Plan for your parenthood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she told him then that I'm here to have an abortion. And so he was there, and he didn't want that, and he just prayed and prayed and prayed, hoping that she would change her mind, but it didn't seem like that was going to happen. He went out to the car, prayed some more. She came out an hour or so later and told him that she couldn't go through with it.
Wow.
That she decided to have the baby. So
wow.
Very, very inspirational talk last night by Brandon Tatum.
It's fantastic. What a great job that Vitae does. I went to the dinner last year. Powerful, always powerful speakers. They do these dinners not only across Missouri, but all across the country. They're a great organization you don't hear a whole lot about because they prefer to work behind the scenes and work on research and have great people tell great stories about choosing life, which sounds like Brandon did great last night.
You know, we're going to skip the 100 times list. We'll do that tomorrow because I want to get to this golf story.
Okay.
Tim, you remember the Live Golf group?
How the Live Tour.
Yeah, well, it may be short-lived. Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund is on the verge of announcing it will withdraw financial support for the Live Golf, what do you call that? The
Golf Tour.
Golf Tour.
Live Golf Tour.
So it may be short-lived. Sergio Garcia, he won the Masters tournament in 2017, suggested the athletes were in the dark about the league's fate. He said the wealth fund leader, Yasir Al-Ramayan, had assured players that Live was part of a broader, longer effort, but the tournament in Mexico may be canceled. So was everybody scared about Live being competitive to the PGA?
They were.
All for naught.
They were. Yeah, they were. And for a while, it looked pretty touch and go. And this is an interesting story because it shows that money can't buy everything, right?
And they were showering money on these guys, man. It was ridiculous.
If the Saudis wanted to, they could just run Live forever. But nobody's watching it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't catching on. And it's really hard to compete with something like the PGA Tour with all of its history and all of its notoriety. And look, the PGA Tour has been woken up by this, and they're not perfect either. They've got some real issues that they've had to deal with in properly taking care of the people that play on that. Not everybody is in the top 100 golfers in the world, but you need all these other these aspiring golfers. Otherwise, you're not going to have a PGA Tour. And so I think there's some lessons have been learned. But Live was trying to be different, but yet the same, and they really didn't have. They never could create a thing that could get people that interested in them. I think I watched maybe a couple minutes of a Live event. I didn't quite understand it. It didn't hold my attention. Maybe I'm old school, but I think this is good for the game of golf for everybody to rally around the tradition and the majesty of the PGA Tour and everything it offers.
And besides Sergio Garcia, are there other named players on the Live tournament?
There's plenty. Phil Mickelson and others.
Oh, okay.
But Chris, a bunch of them have come back to the PGA Tour.
All right. 5:57. Larry Connor's USA is up next, of course. The story behind the story, the sinking of the Titanic, and no, Larry was not there. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis or go online to overstockoutletstl.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and